Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. How you guys doing out there? So look, man, I know we've been following boxing for the most part, but Jake Paul. We know we've been waiting for him to step up and fight a true boxer, okay? Now he finally is. He's fighting Tommy Fury. Now, for those of you who think that him fighting Tommy Fury is still not a real boxer, then you just don't want to give this man credit, okay? And at the same time, we have to give Tommy Fury credit because he stepped up in his last fight against a guy, excuse me, who was tough. And some people didn't give Tommy Fury a chance to win. But in that fight, Tommy Fury showed that he's added layers to his boxing game, and he looked very good. But now we have Tommy Fury, who's obviously gotten better, and Jake Paul, who's obviously gotten better as well. And we're going to see them finally come together. And I think this is going to say a lot about both guys. But there's one person in particular, right, who I just don't understand this guy's story, man. I just don't get it. Big John Fury. Big John Fury does not want anything to do with the fight between Tommy Fury and Jake Paul. In the words of John Fury, he's like, Tommy Fury, if he goes forward with the fight, he is not me son. Okay? And I just think, we all know John Fury is a bit cartoonish at times, temperamental, says a lot of things. But this by far is the biggest fight of Tommy Fury's career. So for John Fury to say he doesn't want anything to do with this farce, not now, not ever. If Tommy Fury goes forward to fight, he is not his son. I mean, why put that unnecessary stress on your son? Now, for those of you who don't know, right, and don't understand the significance of if John Fury doesn't get involved with this fight, because he's his trainer. He trains his son. Okay? So you're going to walk away from training your son for the biggest fight of his career because what? Because you don't want to see Jake Paul as a real boxer? Let me tell you something. Jake Paul has always been a real boxer. He was a real boxer fighting non-boxers. That's what was happening. And that's why he was able to do what he did. Jake Paul was a novice boxer. Just, incrementally getting better every fight. Fighting tomato cans, fighting guys who would have, if they had more fights, would have had losing records in boxing. Then he finally stepped up, got in there with Tyron Woodley in a rematch, did the job, okay? But Jake Paul is still working. Let me tell you, there's a science to what's going on with Jake Paul. And Tommy Fury is looking like good food to eat right now. Now the thing is this, Tommy Fury is getting better too. People, this fight is going to be much better than what we think. Now, you keep talking about Jake Paul, him fighting, what's his name, KSI's brother. Then he fought Eason Gibb. Then he fought Ben Askren and 2 fights with Tyron Woodley. That's a natural order of progression, okay, for someone who really had no boxing experience. But learning on the job, getting better, a little better each opponent. Now you see where he is. This is a real fight. But when you look at Tommy Fury, right? Because Tommy Fury, as of right now, has 8 fights, 4 KOs. And he has 0 losses, right? But you look at his fights. He was going there fighting guys. And Tommy Fury's first fight, he fought a guy who had 10 wins, 102 losses. Second fight, he fought a guy with no wins, 26 losses. Third fight, fought a guy with 2 wins, 26 losses. Fourth fight, fought a guy with 0 wins, 11 losses. Fifth fight, fought a guy with 0 wins, 9 losses. Sixth fight, fought a guy with 2 wins, 0 losses. Seventh fight, fought a guy with 0 win, 1 loss. Eighth fight, fought a guy with 10 wins, 1 loss. So, did you hear what I just said? So listen. So Tommy Fury's first, out of Tommy Fury's first 8 of his 8 opponents, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of those opponents never had a win. Never had a win. Okay? The first fighter had 10 wins, 102 losses. Second one, no wins, 26 losses. Now, we're slamming Jake Paul, right? Let's look at Tommy Fury. Let's look at his situation. Not too far off from Jake Paul, although he was fighting boxers, but let's look at what he was getting in there with. A tomato can is a tomato can, okay? Third fight, the guy he fought had 2 wins, 26 losses. Fourth fight, 0 wins, 11 losses. Fifth fight, 0 wins, 9 losses. Sixth fight, 2 wins, 0 losses. Seventh fight, 0 wins, 1 loss. Eighth fight, 10 wins, 1 loss. That was the guy who we were like, okay, we're going to see what he's made of. Now he's fighting Jake Paul, who's 5 wins, 0 losses. But Jake Paul's a little bit of a different animal, okay? So if we're going to sit there and slam Jake Paul for not being a true boxer because of who he's fought, got to slam Tommy Fury too, okay? We get it. He's got the last name, you know, whatever, man, about being a reality show star. Jake Paul's a YouTube sensation. Bring the two of these guys together who are boxers, but whose opponents outside of what the opponents are walking into in August were pretty much just like springboards to get them to the level of where they're ready to face real competition. So I think a really good measuring stick for these two guys are each other. They bring about the same amount of boxing skill to the table, same amount of boxing of fans to the table, and they both are coming from that kind of social media, internet kind of world. So this is the perfect matchup. Now, if you ask me, okay, when I look at this, right, and let me pull up something else, because this to me is pretty important. Because a lot of people are thinking, I think some people still think Jake Paul is like 5'7" or something like that. But Jake Paul is not a small guy, man. You know, him and his brother, them crazies got a little size to them. So, you know, we need to understand what we're dealing with. So when you look at Jake Paul, he's 6'1", okay? I'm 6 feet tall. He's 6'1". He got some height, and he has a 76-inch reach, okay? So Jake Paul is 6'1" with a 76-inch reach. Tommy Fury is 6 feet tall, and his reach, I think, is 80 inches. He has long arms, but you can tell he has long arms just when he's boxing and in the photos. So Tommy Fury has the longer reach. Height-wise, they're about the same. But this isn't a mismatch. It's not. And I'm going to tell you right now, Tommy Fury, he has power. He doesn't have Jake Paul power. Jake Paul has that freeze ray, that despicable me, freeze ray right hand. And going into this fight, I think the intelligence that Tommy Fury has acquired underneath the tutelage of his dad and his brother Tyson Fury has helped him tremendously. I think in his training camp, his brother Tyson Fury in his camp, and Sugar Hill and Andy Lee and everyone who's going to converge, because John Fury can say what he wants. If he doesn't help his son, that may be even better for Tommy Fury, that he doesn't have his dad in there creating distractions and chaos. But I think Tommy Fury, IQ-wise, he's going to go into the ring having been exposed to more elite athletes, elite recommendations, elite suggestions, elite philosophies, because of the people he's going to be surrounded as a result of his brother. Jake Paul is going to be around guys with sound boxing IQs, sound philosophy, sound everything, but I just think as far as the advice being given to the two, Jake Paul's going to get great advice. Tommy Fury is going to get elite advice. Do you understand? Now, that doesn't mean Tommy Fury is going to win the fight. I just think he's going to get so much that could create confusion, because you're trying to do all these things at once. So we need to kind of curtail that into a nice little package and present him the game plan. But he's going to have so much coming at him. But going into this fight, in my opinion, because I watched Tommy Fury's last fight, he's displayed patience. He's working behind the jab. He's thinking about catching and countering. So he's done some things in that last fight where I'm like, very impressive. Getting behind a person's high guard and touching them. Throwing that, and he throws that straight right hand right down the pipe. Jake Paul doesn't necessarily throw it right down the pipe. He likes to throw a kind of looping overhand right, one of those Marcos Maidana type punches. But Jake Paul has that kind of power where he will jab, feint, half jab just to blind you or to make you, get you out of position. And then he'll dip, and when you think he's coming to the body, he comes over with that short, powerful right hand, and he's getting guys out. Now, true indeed, he was getting guys out who we, outside of Tyron Woodley, would consider clowns. But going into this thing with, what's his name, Tommy Fury, I just think Tommy Fury is going to be, I think they're both going to be sitting ducks for each other's power shots. I do. It's just a matter of who can take what the other person is dishing. And I don't think Tommy Fury is going to be able to take what Jake Paul is bringing. I don't. And I think Jake Paul's going to get there with those shots. I do. I watched Tommy Fury's footwork. You got to have, intelligent feet inside that ring. Tommy Fury's footwork has gotten better. Jake Paul's footwork, it still needs work. But neither one of them have the kind of footwork that can get them out of trouble. Okay? They just don't have that intelligent footwork yet. I think they're getting better, though. And I like what I'm seeing, but let me tell you, come August 6th, in Madison Square Garden, Jake Paul is going to clip Tommy Fury. And it's a 50-50 fight, okay? But I think Jake Paul is going to clip him. I think once he hits him with that right hand, because Tommy Fury may hit Jake Paul, he may drop Jake Paul. But I don't see him knocking Jake Paul out. If Jake Paul hits him, and Tommy Fury's not going to go down taking it, he's going to get knocked out cold. There's something in that right hand of Jake Paul, and you just can't teach that. Okay? Some people just naturally blessed with those heavy hands, the concrete in their hands. They can just give you a five like that, and you feel the weight of their hand. Okay? And it's not even having massive hands. It's just how they're born, man. You know what I mean? My hands are heavy, but they're not heavy like that. Two of my brothers have hands like that. You know what I mean? You feel it just playing around, and we're older now. But them guys, the goddamn hands is just crazy. And that's what I think Jake Paul has. So we'll see. But it's gonna be amazing, man. Amanda Serrano's gonna be on the fight card. So they're doing it right. And you gotta understand that I think there's gonna be a lot of Brits there. But it's in New York, and a lot of Puerto Ricans are going to be there supporting Jake Paul. Puerto Rico is home for him now. He's not Puerto Rican, but, that's home for him now. And there's going to be a lot of people coming out to support him as well because he has a lot of fans. But this is going to be an interesting matchup. Now, the thing is, where do they go from here? Well, Jake Paul, because I think he's going to win. Although I say it's a 50-50 fight, I'm going to say Jake Paul is going to be able to withstand what Tommy Fury's dishing out. I don't think Tommy Fury's going to be able to withstand what Jake Paul's dishing out. Okay. After this fight, I'm not sure what's next for Jake Paul, but I would like to see him fight Deontay Wilder's brother Marcellus. To be quite frank with you, I would have liked to see Jake Paul fight Marcellus Wilder now, then Tommy Fury after. Okay, but if Jake Paul wants to keep fighting the big names, that would be amazing to see him take on the brother of the two best heavyweights, you can say it, of this era, arguably of this era, Tommy Fury and Marcellus Wilder. They're both boxers, good step-ups for him, and it should be competitive. And then go on to a top 10 contender or something like that, or however they're going to move him. But he's gonna have to come back after this and step it up. And once you get beyond Tommy Fury, you're no longer in there with guys who don't know what they're doing. They're not in there really kind of still learning on the job. So he probably have a little bit of lateral progression with Tommy Fury. It's like he's been moving up the ladder, right? Can't reverse, right? We move up the ladder, we don't reverse. So he's kind of moved up the ladder. Let's say he's kind of, okay, I'm here. I'm making a conscious decision to plateau here. Right? I'm going to allow myself to plateau at this level. But I'm going to do some lateral progression. I'm going to get some work here at this level and clip a few more fights. And then I'm going to get back on that ladder and start to move up some more. Okay? And then we may see him get into a fight, man, where he starts fighting guys, maybe some names we recognize. that are bigger names than Tommy Fury and who aren't big names because of their siblings, but big names because of what they bring to the ring. And that's the direction I think it's going to go. And you have to give credit to Showtime, Espinoza, and whoever is there guiding Jake Paul, because they're doing this the right way. They're not worried about what the fans are saying. They're not worried about the critics. They're looking at, we have a large investment in him, and we need to maximize our returns. But at the same time, they know, okay, at some point we got to step it up, and now they're doing it. And this is huge for Jake Paul. Just look at where this man was a couple years ago. Okay, doing crazy pranks, man. And it just shows you, man, when you put your mind to something, especially something like a sport, and he felt like the sport saved his life. This man was out there, partying, rock star status, you know what I mean? And he got the hell out of there. He probably would have been dead because he's one of those extremists like Mike Tyson. You can't just do something in moderation. You got to go all the way. So the drinking, partying, who knows what drug use was going on, it's breaking his body down. Got out of there, got a good woman in his life, it seems, on a nice island, man, chilling. All the money in the world, and found something that makes him happy. All the stresses that he had in life, things that bogged him down, he gets able to release it in the ring. And I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Tommy Fury. And I would like to see both of them. Part of me is like, give it a draw. Two young guys, man, especially with the amount of pressure that's being put on Tommy Fury. I'm going to do a whole nother video about that. I just don't think that's fair for them to do him like that, man. His family shouldn't do him like that. But they're vocal people, they're animated, they're cartoonish. But I just don't think so. Part of me is like, make it a draw so they both get credit and let them go on to a rematch or something else. But I just would hate to Tommy Fury, man, to spiral into depression, or for Jake Paul to spiral into depression. Like, that's not something I want for these young guys, man. But I'll leave it as that. I'm going to do a video on John Fury and Tyson Fury, how they're, to me, they're unfairly approaching this fight, and how they're kind of putting unnecessary stress on Tommy, which could be a huge distraction and could cause him to go in that ring and try to do something that he shouldn't be doing within the first 3 minutes and get caught by that damn freeze ray right hand of Jake Paul. So anyway, I'll leave it as that. But the fight is on. I commend both of them. And there's VADA testing, which is very important. Okay? And they're both signed up to it, and it is what it is. So let's just hope we don't get anything negative on Jake Paul. I pray we don't get anything negative on Jake Paul. I just don't want to hear that. That, to me, would be a disappointment. And everything that he's accomplished would be thrown out the window. And everybody would have a right to complain. Okay? But we don't know yet, but we'll see. But they have committed to testing, and we'll see how that goes. But that being said, more to come. I'll be having a video coming out shortly about the Tyson, the Furies, and how they're, to me, man, they're not giving Tommy the support he deserves, in my opinion. But anyway, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Shout out to all the veterans. And as always, I'm in the breeze.